It's a hot one here in Oklahoma today. 7 o'clock at night and it's still 96, 97 degrees out. And I didn't work through the middle of the day because it was just probably over 100 in the shop and wasn't going to happen. Anyway, if you clicked on this video, you probably saw the thumbnail and you know what we're getting into. I got another set of inner fenders. So not for nothing. The CPP fenders that we put a whole lot of work into, more hours than I care to count, which are right up here. They're going to be going over there onto the gasser build because they're cut for fender well headers, and the fender well headers are now going on that car. So we're going to just shimmy them inner fenders right on over there to the gasser build, which meant I was back needing inner fenders for the wagon. There was no chance in hell I was going to get them CPP inner fenders again because I'm not totally disappointed with the end product I came up with, but the amount of work that went in it to get there was atrocious. So I went to the good old interwebs and started searching to see what all options were out there. And previously I had seen an inner fender set from Heidts, probably what I should have got. Those I think are close to 400 bucks. It's the inner fenders, the brackets, the hardware, the works. It's supposed to be a good fit. I didn't buy those. I saw an inner fender set from Helix. They looked very similar to the Heidts. They didn't. I don't think they included the brackets needed for the hood with those inner fenders. I'm not sure if they included hardware. I think they were about 300 bucks. A little bit more than the CPP, if I remember correctly, maybe a little bit less, but it was in the same ballpark. I did not go with those. Instead, I happened to come across a set made by C2C Fabrications, or classic to Current Fabrications. And you know what? They were only 140 bucks, making this the cheapest set of inner fenders I could find on the internet. Which means they might be a total disaster, but we'll see. I don't know what's all actually in here because their website is not, it's not the best website, but the products showed up about a week after I ordered them, so I can't complain with that. I will say though, I'm not overly impressed with the packaging for the shipping right out the gate. I haven't even looked in the box yet. I pulled the staples out, as you can see, but I haven't opened it yet because I figured I'd do that on camera. That way, if something crazy is in there, you'll find out when I find out. And but what I do know when I brought the box down from the house is not the greatest packaging. So let me get the camera propped up over here, and we'll figure out what all's in this box and go from there. Maybe we got a set of inner fenders that's going to work out. Maybe not. We'll see where we end up. Just hope we don't end up down the CPP path again, even though I kind of went cheap, and cheap usually bites you in the backside. Anyway, here we go. All right, in we go. Find out what we got. Paper. So there's some packing. Yeah, there's really not much in here, but I have one inner fender panel. Ooh, with a couple of gnarly bends in it. That's right out, fresh out of the box. I ain't gonna hide it. You saw me pull it out. That corner's been whaled, and we got another gnarly bend right there. Not beyond straightening, but doable. The other thing, I'll come back to the other thing. Oh, that's kind of janky right there. We'll look at that here in a minute. Let's empty the box the rest of the way. Out. This is inner fender number 2, and well, it's not a whole lot heck of a much better in shipping condition right out of the box. We got a pretty gnarly whale in it right there. Again, that can be straightened, but packing is definitely inferior. What else? Is there anything else in here? There is not. A little bit more paper. And that's it. So, like I saw on the website, and now I see why it didn't list anything. Ooh, there's another gnarly spot. Bent up. Again, can be straightened, but kind of annoying. But this bend is going the right way. At least we got that. So the website shows these just like you see them for the most part. No hardware, no brackets, and well, minus the bends. They don't show it with the bends on the website. But yeah, it's 2 inner fender panels, 140 bucks. This is what it gets you. The on this one, all right, let me grab the camera. We'll give you a better view of what I'm looking at. All right, so on this panel, it looks like the knockouts didn't get knocked out where they got cut. You can see I just popped that one out. There's another one there, another one there. No big deal. As you can see, they just come right off, so that doesn't bother me. Here's that seam, that one of the things I went about, and I was going to show you. They did cut it here, and I know why they did it. It's because this turns to a slopes down towards the front of the car, and if you didn't put a relief in there, that would buckle. But I'll probably end up welding that. We'll grind that out a little bit and weld it and make that seam go away. And the straightness on this is just not great, as you can see in the camera. Try and give you a good angle on it. Hold steady. Yeah, there you go. You can definitely see it there, how bent up that is. It does seem to only have the bends along this outer edge here. The rest of the panel, this actual intended bend line along here and this one here both look really good. So I don't have any complaints about that. This panel, it's got this going the correct direction, I might add. So we shouldn't have to modify that this time. But that looks good. And back here, where on the CPPs we had to do a bunch of fitting and cutting, you can see where this is already notched over. So hopefully that's a good sign that these will fit, and we just have to do some straightening up here and get rid of these knockouts. Yeah, that's good stuff. And then the other panel, the knockouts where they cut the ovals are relieved. They are removed. That seam, same thing. That looks a little bit cleaner on this panel, but and a couple of little minor bends. But overall, these are looking pretty good. Like I said, we got a bend down here that we're gonna have to straighten up, but not bad. So, but that's what you get. What you don't get, like I said, no hardware included, and this bracket right here is not included. Why that matters, if you aren't aware, is this bracket, which this one's installed on this side. These are the ones that came with the CPP fenders. This is your reinforcement for carrying your hood hinges. Now, because of what I saw on C2C or Classic to Current Fabrication on their website with these inner fenders, I wasn't expecting to get those brackets, and I was okay with that because this car, the hood is going to be pin-on all 4 corners, so I didn't need to move these brackets with the CPP inner fenders. So I'll be able to keep those on this car, and that's going to make this work out. But if you're going to give these inner fenders a go and you plan on using hood hinges, you'll need to do something about adding reinforcement for carrying your hood hinge, because the inner fender alone is not enough structure for that, because it's just hanging on this sheet metal seam of your outer fender. So keep that in mind. If you go with the Classic to Current Fabrication inner fenders, you'll need hood hinge supports if you're going to run hood hinges. So yeah, With it being blistering hot out here, I'm already sweating, and all I did was take these panels out of the box. I'm not gonna run the camera while I'm straightening these out, but I'm gonna spend a few minutes. I'm gonna get these straightened out a little bit so that we can do a quick fit up on them and see if they're gonna fit. As you may or may not be aware, I have gone through the process of fitting up these inner fenders on these Chevy IIs what feels like a million times because of those ones from CPP not fitting right and having to go on and off, 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 on it a lot. I know, sounded like a broken record there for a second. It was terrible. Yeah, that's how bad those fenders. Don't buy the CPP inner fenders. At least not if you don't have a CPP front clip. Maybe there's some sort of magic with the CPP front clip that makes those inner fenders work. But if you don't have that front clip, don't buy those inner fenders. I know it looks like a good deal, but it's not. Well, we're about to find out if the C2Cs are. I'll get them straightened up and fitted up, and we'll see where we end up. Be back with you shortly for the fit up. All right, the inner fenders are straightened up and ready to go. We're gonna see if we can't get them mounted up. One thing that I did find out though is when I was originally doing the CPP inner fenders, I had these brackets on and I was putting the inner fender to the inside of this so that this was hidden behind the inner fender. Turns out that is not correct. Well, at least according to the instructions for the Heidts inner fenders, which use a very similar bracket, this bracket actually goes on, which you'll get a better sense of it once we install these, but this bracket will go over the top of the inner fender and the outer fender and clamp both of those together, you know, basically like that. So what that does do though is it makes it a little bit more difficult to figure out how to hang these, because originally what I was doing, since I had those in there, is I was hanging the inner fender off those brackets and then putting the other panels on, pulling it all together. But since we don't have that option, I guess what we'll do is we'll slide the inner fenders kind of, well, first we'll eyeball and make sure that we're going to fit. We're a little tight on the control arm. Yeah, probably going to be some trimming required. It's tight, but it's there, so it will need a little bit of trimming, but we're talking minimal, like just take the edge off kind of level of trimming. So not the kind of cutting we had to do on them CPP inner fenders. And we'll slide these in this side, see what we've got over here. Yeah, this one's going to need the same kind of trimming. It's tight to the control arm, but I mean, by tight, it's still kind of fitting in there, but it'll rub on the control arm, so that won't work to keep it there, but it'll work for fit up. I mean, it's hanging out in there. Let's grab the core support, where everything's about to disappear on you because it'll be blocked by the core support. Go figure. Let's see if I can get these in where they're supposed to be. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, this is going to need just a little bit of shim trimming. I mean, we're talking minimal trimming just to get this to all fit in right. But it's pretty damn close. Get it in there. There we go. Okay. And the outer. Up. I got to throw a couple of shims in to get the back of the panel up to about where it's going to live. which I already had out. It's the same shings that were in it originally at this position, so that should give us all of our alignment on that back end real good. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. I can tell you right now that these inner fenders from Classic to Current are going to be a much easier fitment process than those CT or Classic Performance CPP inner fenders were. Is much closer on the fitment. That sits right there. The holes are going to fit better. Oh yeah, everything. That's like lining up real nice. Real good. Oh, man. Oh, goodness. Yeah, other than a little trimming down by the control arm, these are going to be probably a perfect fit. Other than that, that little, well, I mean, we're talking less than an 1/8 inch, probably a 1/16 inch. I'll probably give it an 1/8 just so it guarantees if things move around that there's room. So I can't quite bolt it all up because the panel's got to shift. Just a hair. Just a hair. It's so close. All right, let's give you a look. Yeah, so here's your look-see. Well, this panel is currently sitting a little low. This actually should come in on top of the fender skin. Let me see if I can shimmy this a little bit. Come on, come on. There we go. No, it's supposed to go underneath. It was right before. There we go. Yeah, that should come in over the top like that. This panel is up high right now because it's pinched down here. So yeah, it's rubbing, touching the A-arm right there where I'm pointing, and it's touching the back right here, just ever so slightly. So it needs to be clearanced a little bit, probably right here on the A-arm side. If I had tubular control arms instead of the older stamped factory style arms, that probably wouldn't even be an issue. So if you've got stamped arms or tubular arms, you may not have this problem at all. Which that bind up right there is preventing that panel from being shifted just right, so it's not lining up quite right up here, but I think doing the relief on the back is probably going to fix the front of it. The shape that we got right here, this cutout, this is very similar to, I don't know if you watched the videos on the CPP fenders. Granted, I did more rounding, but that's the same kind of shape I made on these fenders to get that to fit, and it's looking, it's looking like it's got the right shape, the right kind of cutout. That's all real nice. And then when we take and, you can probably already see it, but when we flex the fender over, because this one is also rubbing right down there and right here. Probably the same thing, like I said, tubular control arms, that's probably not an issue. But when you flex it into, flex it over so things are lined up, you can see that the holes where the bolts go line up real nice. A little back on that one, definitely a little back here. And again, same thing up here at the front, but it's also not pulled forward yet because of that issue right there at the control arm. So I think once we relieve this on both sides, both fenders will shift forward. It'll close that gap, and we should be able to bolt them up. Looks like we might have a misalignment of the bolt holes to the core support. That would tell me that this fender's got to go up. This inner fender panel's got to go up for those to line up. But the top is already too high. So we may end up having to drill new holes, but drilling new holes is a lot easier than having to completely cut that flange off and weld it on the other way around. So that's not a big deal. I can live with having to drill a few new holes in there. Yeah, this one looks like it's going to be the same thing. The holes all look like they're about 1 inch low. But that's, like I said, no big deal. And then for hardware, since it didn't come with hardware, and I was already planning to replace a bunch of my factory hardware anyways, and I didn't like the hardware that came with the CPP. You can't see where I'm pointing. CPP inner fenders came with some cheap Chinese crappy Allen head hardware for doing all your attachments up here with nylocks on the back of them. Didn't like that. So I jumped on the good old Amazon, and I found factory style spring clips for putting, they'll go onto the inner fender, and factory style hardware that'll look nice and original. So once we have that in there, you know, and that's bolted together, you'll get that look of the bolt, which is exactly what was in here before, except they were all rusted up. Which I have, I'm pretty sure I have an example of that here somewhere. Where is one of those factory bolts? Right fender. See that? Right fender. Keeping track of my hardware. So here's one of the factory bolts. Yep, you're looking at that. And we put that right next to the new bolt. Not quite the same. This one's got a full cross on it. The new bolt's kind of got like a T stamping on it. But you can tell, I mean, it's very close to being, it won't stand out as some weird Allen head, button head bolt that's gonna jump out at you and be like, whoa, that's out of place. It'll look like original style hardware, which means that once these are painted black, that same color as the core support, those bolts, which I'm gonna be using quite a few of all over the place, will more or less vanish away. So I'm gonna do some trimming. I'm gonna clean that edge up. I think I'm gonna start with 1/8 of an inch off that backside on both inner fenders and kind of see where that fits. I may go in and out a couple of times. I wanna do minimal changes because I think that these are really close to being what they need to be. So we'll take a little bit, and hopefully within maybe the first cut, maybe 2 or 3 cuts, we'll be ready to actually, you know, bolt these in place. And once they bolt in place, then we can paint them up and they can get installed permanently, which means the fenders can go on and the core support can stay on, and now all that gets bolted up, and we get that much closer to having a proper hot rod eventually. What I was saying though, before I jump off here and get back to work, this bracket, this will make it a little more clear. It'll go like that right there. Over the top, it'll bolt in, still same 2 bolts there, and it'll bolt into the top 2 bolts right here, which right now it won't go back because there's bolts in there. But it'll bolt in right there, and you'll have your hood hinge support right there with this guy on the outside, which should work. And that's how Heidts, the inner fender instructions from Heidts actually show that's how that's supposed to go. And I know this now because of a guy that I talked to on Facebook on one of the plentiful of Chevy II pages. Was asking some questions, and a guy had some great feedback for me, sent me some pictures of his car, which is a beautiful Arcadian, and he's got the Heidts inner fender kit. He sent me pictures of how his was installed, as well as told me that the instructions said to put it together that way, which would have been great to know with the CPP kit that came with no instructions, and I couldn't find any online either. Shame on you, CPP, no instructions. BS. I hate those fenders. Man, it's a good thing I figured out how to make them work because they almost went in the trash. Anyway, it's hot and I got work to do, so I'll be back with you when I got some cutting and sanding and fitting done. Yeah. Well, they're better than the CPP fenders. But they are definitely requiring some modification to get fit into the car. It's much smaller. It's trim to fit kind of stuff, like I already pointed out. And it's really not too bad. I've already got, what was that, 2 bolts in on that side that kind of holding my alignment together. And then over here on the passenger side, I've got 3 bolts in that are holding that together. The fender's still riding just a little bit high on this side, and that's a spot back there that needs to be trimmed a little bit so that the whole inner fender can drop down. Needs a little bit of trimming. I already did some fitment right here. I don't even know if you can see what I'm pointing at. Whatever. Hopefully you can. Did some fitment right here. Had to adjust that a little bit, and it looks like it needs a little bit more right here on this side. And we probably have to do the same on this side. A little bit of fitment. I did work on that a little bit. This fender is pretty close to where it needs to be now. So it really is just trim to fit modifications, which are much less painful than what had to be done to those CPP fenders, where they had to get cut apart and welded back together because they were just way wrong. But I just got notified that my dinner is ready. It's kind of late in the evening, and it's still hot. What is it? It's 90 degrees at like 9:30 at night. Yeah, and it's getting muggy. So I'm gonna call it right here for tonight. I'll be back out on this in the morning, probably pretty early. Try and beat some of the heat tomorrow, and see if we can't finish getting these mocked in here. And but C2C Fabrication, they are a better fender than the CPPs, and I suspect they are on par with what's in the Heidts and or the Helix type fenders. They just don't have all the other bits like the hood hinge supports and the hardware. But depending on what you're doing, that might be a good option for you at the price break of these guys. I think it was 140 bucks. So anyway, I'm gonna go eat my dinner, get some sleep, and we'll get right back to it. Is for you a flash, for me about 6-7 hours. See ya. Well, good morning, or whatever time it is, whatever greeting is appropriate for when you're watching. It's morning for me, and as you know, we spent the evening last night working on these inner fenders. And well, I wasn't overly disappointed. They're relatively close to fitting in there. And where I was at last night, I was very much on the fence of that these were pretty dang close. 1 or 2 more minor trim fits and they should go. Well, if you're looking at it now, you might notice that that core support does not look like the core support that was on the car last night, because it's down there on the floor. I came back out this morning and with a nice clear head while sipping my coffee and not sweating, even though the heat levels are quickly rising. We're probably, good chance we'll break 100 today, which means it's going to be a scorcher in the shop. Oh, I'm going to try and not be out here in the middle of the day. But I figured, all right, we're on inner fender panel set number 2. The first ones, which do fit after all the work I did to them. And if you didn't already know it, they're going over there on that car now. But I figured, you know what? This is the second set of inner fenders, and when I started looking at it this morning, I'm like, oh, maybe I was missing something last night when I was looking at this, and this problem's a little bit worse than I expected. Well, you know what? 2 sets of inner fenders having a very similar issue from 2 different manufacturers. Maybe there is an issue with the core support. I happen to have another one, so that's what I did. I grabbed another core support that I had sitting, hiding away back over there behind the truck under the hoods. It's the core support for the blue Mordor, which has not really been on the channel at all. Eventually it might be, but anyway, so I grabbed another core support and threw it on here because this core support and that core support should be quote unquote identical. No, actually they're not identical. There's a few variations between the 63 and the 65, but as far as for this type of fitment, it is identical, where the fenders mounts to the frame, the basic profile, everything that we need related to this is identical. I threw it in here, and sure enough, it let's see if you can see it. It's got the same issues. And this spot right here, it hits in the exact same spots where I had already made some Sharpie marks. And same on this side, the interference points are exactly the same. So the issue is not that core support. But I think I've found a bigger problem, which is going to turn these inner fenders into a potentially a royal nightmare, about as ugly as those ones. Turn the camera on. I'll show you what I'm talking about, and you'll get it. I promise. It's gonna be fun, I think. Not. So the issue does not lie. Fortunately, the issue does not lie with this line up here. This is actually looking really good on both sides. I don't have a bolt in this one, but you can see that hole's right there, right where it needs to be. Like I mentioned just a minute ago, the interference points, again, this is minor fitment around this area. That's no big deal either. That's just some time with a flap disc and sanding that out. And it's the same right here. But where the issue lies is with this flange that's supposed to bolt to the core support. And if you look at this, it's not even close. Hold on a second. Let me grab a couple of clamps and I'll put a bolt in that kind of holds the fender and the core support lined up here. I'll clamp the bottom of it and you'll really be able to see how far off this flange is. You know where that leads. All right, so I got a clamp in down there. That's holding the bottom pretty close to where it needs to be. We still got 1, 2, 3 bolts that are actually bolted in to the seam on the top of the fender. Our clearances back here at the back are tolerable. Core support is not bolted, but you can see by looking at that hole right there that it's in all the way back, and there's a bolt right here where this is floating because it's up too high, but there's a bolt that's kind of keeping our alignment of the top of the core support this way, where it needs to be. Our fender's got a bolt right here at the back top holding that, and our gap, well, it sucks, but it's fairly even, which means the fender is not high or low at the front by too much. It's definitely high at the front, but that's what'll help close up the gap down there that needs to be closed up. And then this part right here is actually halfway decent. So the top of the fenders right here is fairly close to where it needs to be. The bottom needs to come down a little bit, and that'll all shim in. Once this bolts together, that shouldn't be much of an issue, because you can see that there's room for that to be adjusted once the inner fender is not forcing it out of position. The problem lies with this flange. I'm trying to give you a camera angle where you can halfway see it. Hopefully that's decent. Well, you can see the flange is at the bottom. It's kind of in where it needs to be, and then it goes off and off and off and off, which puts it over into the tapered portion of the core support, and this is what's pushing on the inner fender. It's pushing it up and pushing it back, not allowing it to go into place. And these bolt holes, there's only 2 now because I've already cut one off down here because it was too low and it was hitting in that corner and wouldn't allow it to come in at all. So I already took 1.25 inches out of the bottom of this to get the bottom to go into where it needed to go. This hole's low, that hole's low, so we'll have to drill new holes for that. And we got to figure out what to do about this up here. It seems like, oh, I'm catching the stick. It seems like this bend is too close. You probably can't even see it. It seems like this bend is too close to this bend. It should have been out a little bit more in order for this alignment right here to work. And you can see, I would think that this bend should meet up with the core support, you know, 1/2 inch further over. And that's just going to be a bear of a problem. I don't know how exactly to fix that other than grinding it out here so that the top all works, and then potentially having to cut and rework this end flange so that it's out here in the right place and can be bolted to the core support. And it's not a single problem on this side. That same issue, granted this one's not, this fender is not wedged into place quite as well as that one at the moment, but you can see that the same issue occurs, that the angle of that is just not quite right and it doesn't reach over far enough. So this, even though these inner fenders are made different than the CPP inner fenders and the flange is going the right way to start, it's still, the bend is no good. I wonder if I can measure that real quick, see how far different that is from the CPP. Here we go, a ruler. We're looking at what appears to be right about 3 1/8, 3 1/4 on that one towards the front. What did we have towards the front on this one? Because once I reworked these, that bend actually worked out pretty good. And it's, well, if I'm reading that right, 6 is at the top, 3 3/4. So it's a 1/2 inch. A 1/2 inch different on the width right here. It's about a 1/2 inch. And what would a 1/2 inch do right here? It would, well, it would significantly help with that issue. We'll look at the one that's lined up better. If you were to take this bend and move it over a 1/2 inch, it'd be much closer to where that seam is in the core support, which makes me think that this is too narrow, which it looks even narrower on this side. Yeah, it's only like 3 1/8 on this side. And it probably should have been 3 3/4. That's going to be a bear. So now you see what I'm working with. Maybe this is the cost of going cheap, or maybe this is just the inherent problem of the aftermarket inner fenders and them just not being good. This is 2 different core supports from 2 different cars, and the fitment is exactly the same with either condition. The fenders are not wrecked. I mean, the paint's a little rough, very, we got that patina, but they're not wrecked. They're not wrinkled up. They haven't been smashed on either side. This front clip is straight and square. Core support is straight and proper and matches another core support. So it's not like I haven't taken due diligence to try and make sure that it's not an issue with the car. And the fact that these inner fender sets came from 2 different companies and they both have issues, they're not made the same. The CPP ones had a different issue, but had the same kind of fitment problems. These inner fenders from Classic to Current Fabrication, again, we can make them work. We made those other ones work. We can modify these, make these work, but it's not it is not going to be an easy process. And I probably don't have time to get it done today because I do have adulting plans for this afternoon. I'm actually, well, get this. in a world where people get divorced like crazy and get in relationships that don't matter, my grandparents are celebrating their 68th wedding anniversary today. So we're headed off to go celebrate that with them this afternoon, and that's freaking awesome. They are an inspiration to me. So yeah, I don't know that I will live long enough to catch that many numbers as they got, but I'm sure gonna damn try. And but that's gonna definitely this is gonna take more time to fix than I have today, is what I'm getting at with that. So we'll get started on it, and I'm gonna try and come up with an idea on what I'm gonna do to modify this and make this work. I don't know yet what the most appropriate way to fix this is. I don't know if I should maybe cut this along this shelf and widen it. That's probably, I could probably do that. Take and, you know, bolt the one side up to the core support and make a fill piece that I'd have to weld in. But man, that's a lot of the long weld to have to do to fix this. Or maybe we can cut this front section off, which you probably can't see what I'm pointing at because this crap's in the way, and rework it right there, just from the, I don't freaking know. Whatever. We're gonna play the game again with having to butcher up a bunch of inner fenders. I'm not gonna do 3, 4, 5, 10, however many freaking videos it took to get the CPP ones fixed. I will try and keep this down to I'll keep it down to, it'll probably be one more video of what I decide to do to fix it. I have a better idea of how to, well, I don't have a better idea of how to fix it yet, but I will have a better idea of how to fix it, and we'll do that in one video, not multiple, because, well, that got very redundant and I didn't even enjoy it, much less enjoy the editing, and I'm sure the content, well, nobody wants to watch 4, 5, 10, however many freaking videos it takes to butcher up an inner fender set to make it fit. But for now, this is what I'm going to call it quits on this video, because yeah, we're going to move into figuring out how to sort that out, and I really also need to do some work over there on that car. You know what I should do is I should make sure that those CPP inner fenders will fit on that car. That might be a good thing to do. Maybe that's what I will do, knowing that I've got to butcher these. If those ones don't fit over there, I might just have to do a repair on what we cut out for fender well headers and custom fit these ones to that car if that's necessary. I don't know. We got to shuffle some stuff around and figure it out. Anyway, classic to Current Fabrications. If you're good with sheet metal work, 140 bucks gets you these inner fenders that fit like crap, and then you got to customize them and make them fit for you. Yeah, so if that's what you want, that's the way to do it. It's significantly cheaper than the Heidts set, and until I own a Heidts set, I won't say that the Heidts ones are any freaking better. My experience right now says that they're all going to be garbage. So we will see you guys on the next one. Be sure to go on down there, hit that like, hit that subscribe. We're chasing that 1,000 subscriber mark, and we're getting there. We're chipping away at it. So any support you've got for us, we'll take it. I'll take the advice, suggestions, or if you just want to call me an idiot for buying cheap inner fenders, I'll take that too. Put it down there in the comments, and we'll see you guys on the next one.